So, through all of this, there's been a lot of people that like playing stupid. The very first recordings with myself and Megan Mistigatis, matter of fact, the very first phone call from Megan Mistigatis, was recorded right around the time that Selena Not Afraid disappeared. Although Jen Beebe was court-ordered to do her job, Meg Mistigatis ended up doing her job. Part of it, anyway. Well, Jen Beebe literally ignored me for about 6 months. Same thing with Nicole Peralta, despite the fact that I have a court order from Scotts Bluff. But they did nothing. Nothing at all. There's a video called Sean Holloway 1. In that video, this is quite a while after the first situations with Dallas Richmond, the first situation where I stayed with him, the first situation with Christopher Kurth that happened a while before that. I recorded a lot of important information. In the Deputy Holloway 1 video, that's after I literally had to break windows at low income in order to get the cops to do their jobs. I couldn't leave my apartment without having to be afraid of somebody like Chris Kurth or Carl Snell, or, as I let Nicole Knudsen know at the time, Clint Snell as well. That's Leslie Snell's husband. See, there's a lot of people involved, and it gets real complicated real quick. That's why I post up these visual aids, so you can see who's who. Everybody's fucking related to everybody in Chapel, Nebraska. Oh. Kind of a gross place to live. You're related to everybody. No matter who you get married to, you're married into family. It's fucked up. Also, it's a rural area, so incest in rural areas is 70% higher per capita than in urban areas. So out in the country, out in the boondocks, out in farming territory, them farmers getting big government subsidies, drinking every night at the bar, spending $50 a night doing that. That's $1,500 a month that they're wasting just at the bar. While they complain about immigrants coming into the country and taking everybody's jobs and destroying the nation. Meanwhile, they hire exclusively immigrants to do all of the actual work during harvest. So these drunk-ass farmers who are relying on immigrant labor but are complaining about immigrants, well, they're also a lot more likely to get free money, and they're also a lot more likely to have sex with their own kids. So keep that in mind. That is a real statistic. With Sean Holloway, the video Sean Holloway 1, this is after Laura Nelson and I had spoken with him. This is after Scott DaCosta had gone out of his way to make, as Laura Nelson stated it, made her uncomfortable. He was asking very pointed questions. He wasn't trying to get down to the bottom of what was going on with his department. He was trying to insinuate that I was in love with Natalie Bollinger, and Laura Nelson, according to her, straightened that up. But she never came forward to the public about it. I had to record it. Then there's, of course, Rawlins Police Department stealing my computer and holding it ransom in order to force me to plead guilty to crimes I didn't commit. And you know what? Ryan Ingersoll admitted that I didn't commit those crimes. She admitted that she did those things because she was angry. That's right, because she was angry, she felt that it was okay to slander my name. I ended up getting all of my things stolen over that. I did my best to try to carry the evidence. Everything else I had to abandon. My dad's idea of help was expensive, to say the least. His idea of help was to shove something expensive on me, not help me to get any of the things that I needed back. To bully me every single day. Bully me into doing what he wanted. By the time I visited my dad, I had a computer and video games that I could play. I didn't need to play his stupid trucker game because, oh well, I read this thing and it said you guys really like video games. Okay, thanks, Dad. By the way, I really don't like video games. Lana and Amanda Engeline tried pretending that I was up all night playing video games when I was there. I didn't have any video games I could fucking play. Now somehow, magically, it's like I'm explaining what's going on my YouTube channel and on my Facebook, and I'm trying to be as kind as I can to the people who I'm staying with. I'm trying not to bring up the past history of fucked up shit that they've done to me. And I'm trying not to... Well, Lana Engelines, that was one of them places where I really was thinking hard about committing suicide because of the things that she was doing. How horrible she was treating me. How I couldn't get a word in edgewise. She wouldn't allow it. If you don't give a woman what she wants right when she wants it in the United States, we've taught women that they have the right to destroy his life, to make his life hell. At least Amanda Engeline was trying, sort of. But they stole a computer full of evidence for over a year and a half. Meanwhile, I had the evidence of it. It was in my telephone. It was in our messages. There's also people that I went to try to get help getting it back, like Brenda Dickinson. Brenda Dickinson made a phone call with me where Lana and Amanda Engeline were going to send my evidence to me so that I could finally turn it in. They fucking hijacked my goddamn evidence. There was no need to do that. And then they played victim. They stole my evidence because they were poor innocent victims who wanted to make sure their stuff wouldn't get broke. Oh no, you have to commit crimes against me and get innocent people harmed in order to have that happen. Which is exactly what they did. But unlike the other situations, I wasn't literally backed into a corner and fucking bullied by groups of people for trying to turn in bad cops. Lana Engeline was just going to make sure that I didn't get any help. Lucky me, I was able to get Miss Jerry Sparks and Amanda Engeline to help enough to get some stuff sent out to get my paperwork from the hospitals. Unfortunately, they wanted that stuff sent to them. So when they stole my evidence and threw that stuff in my face about how I'm not their friend or Miss Jerry's, and I let Miss Jerry know that. I was like, Miss Jerry, what the fuck is going on? This is not cool. This is not all right. I need your help. I need my fucking evidence. It is important. I needed it for court. And I knew that Lana and Amanda were going to fucking pull some crazy fucking bullshit. I knew that before I left because, of course, I kept getting snapped at because I wasn't doing everything that they wanted right when they wanted me to. I wasn't capable, and they victimized the shit out of me for that. Meanwhile, Amanda Ingline is addicted to watching Game of Thrones. And I'm kind of expected to try to take part in family stuff. But then Lana had a problem with me watching that with Amanda. Meanwhile, I didn't even want to fucking watch it. I was up late because I couldn't sleep because I have nightmares. And Lana and Amanda Ingline tried insinuating later that it was because I was up all night playing video games. I couldn't. My video games would not play there. All I had was online games. I had to try to get Rome Total War or Samurai Total War downloaded onto my computer. I did that right before I left Virginia. Right before I left Montana. It's difficult when you've got people who think that because you need help, that means that they get to dominate your life and you have to do what they want. No, there's a legal process to follow. That's what we need to follow. The legal process. Oh, it'll never work. It's the legal process, and it does work. It absolutely does work if you work together. Do not give them the opportunity to break the law. If they attempt to break the law, you need to have somebody who is a friend or family who cares about you enough to know what's going on. My friends and family ignored everything for 6 fucking years. What do they know about me? Nothing. So I got to go to complete and total fucking strangers. People who to this day, I have literally never met Megan Missigatis. Well, there were local services that were supposed to do this job to help me turn in my predators so that I could do so safely, so that I could turn in crimes against me safely. Now, the witnesses had 2 options. They could come forward or I could come forward about it. Now, I was already coming forward about it, so really they had one option. Either admit to it or hide like cowards. Unfortunately, lots of people left a lot electronic trails, and, well, those electronic trails, like their messages between them and I, resulted in me taking screenshots of those once I learned how. Thank you, Laura Nelson. Now, here's the point with the Holloway 1 video. This is after I had been threatened, harassed, and intimidated by Deputy Hammond, who refused to do his job. On multiple occasions, he wanted to threaten, harass, and intimidate me. Outright lie to me about what the law says, same as Scott DaCosta, and they are recorded saying these things. But you guys don't want to look at that. Any lie that they wanted to tell must be the truth. And their victim must be a liar. And as long as the cops pretend that none of this evidence exists and force me into situations where I will be victimized because I cannot take care of myself, the damage by Waylon Lolatai, the physical damage by police officers and by other various people who chose to assault me over crimes I did not commit. Yes, I do have damage. Also because my so-called friends and family, I had to pay them to care. My little sister did not give a shit. All she cared about was getting fucked up on meth and staring at her tweaker cams. By the way, those recordings with my sister are on this YouTube channel. Some of them anyway. The one from Christmas I haven't popped up yet because Riley was having an issue with his brain. And they were talking about cutting into him and surgery, and it was dangerous, and it really freaked me out. Meanwhile, my little sister talked to my Aunt Mary. I was hoping that they would try to work together and coordinate together to try to help me. They didn't. They didn't. I got that recorded too. See, these people weren't interested in helping me. My sister was interested in money. My Aunt Mary was only interested in herself and talking about herself and her Bible study thing and her stuff for the soldiers and blah, blah, blah. But she didn't give a shit about what I was going through. And because they didn't care, I had to go back to Holloway. Because Laura Nelson never came forward about why she was afraid of Holloway. Why it is that she did not trust him. And any fucking retard can figure that one out. Laura Nelson did try to explain to Sean Holloway that she was afraid for her son. But you know what? I spoke up about that. I tried to do something about that. I spoke up loud and proud, but Laura Nelson did not. She hid like a coward. She said not to trust Sean Holloway. She was thinking about going to Lincoln with me. Actually taking me to Lincoln, because I couldn't take myself. And that way we could turn it into the FBI safely. Because Laura Nelson knew I was telling the truth. She just didn't want it to be public. The problem is because she didn't actually make the effort. She didn't actually make an effort to make it happen. I had to go back to Holloway for help. I had to go back to Holloway to turn stuff in because I was forced by Nebraska State Patrol and the FBI to turn in Scott DaCosta to Scott DaCosta. And all they did was play fucking stupid. So Sean Holloway, when I'm talking to him in there, this is after Megan Mistigatis has already explained to Officer Hammond and at least one other officer that that's not her job. She's also explained to Sean Holloway, or not Sean Holloway, but Sheriff DaCosta that it's not her job. Now, at the very beginning, Deputy Bo Fisher is the one who, he's recorded too, by the way. He's the one who got me in contact with Meg Mistigatis. And she claimed that she helped to train police officers and stuff like that about autism. Now, Scott DaCosta claimed that he didn't have her number. She had his number for certain. And she had agreed to train Dual County Sheriff's Department in it. And Dual County Sheriff Scott DaCosta said that he was totally down with that. But then he wanted to ask me for her number. Like, dude, you guys have her number. The other thing is she has your number. She's been instructed to call you. You guys keep saying she's supposed to be the go-between, and that was the original arrangement. She was going to make sure that when crimes were committed against me, that I had somebody that I could go to turn it in. And repeatedly, she failed miserably. Making zero attempt. Trying to convince me that I needed to move. I didn't have the money to move. So Sean Holloway, by the time he's saying in this video that, well, this is after Harley and all of her bullshit with the kids while she was drunk driving and had 5 children in the vehicle. By the way, they dropped the charges against her. And then they charged Dallas with an assault that didn't happen. One of the kids said that Dallas kicked Harley out of the house. So they chose to reinterpret that into he literally kicked Harley Like, no, it's not the same thing, dummies. I have recordings of her physical abuse. And Nicole Knudsen, she admitted that I'm not the first person to tell her about the physical abuse by Harley. Now, this is obviously after I've already been at Dallas's for quite a while. I've already paid for like 7 months that he was out of work. It literally took Harley getting in trouble for drunk driving with 5 kids in the vehicle for him to sober up for a week and actually get a fucking job and stop being a drain on all of my resources. And I was glad to give my resources because it was a roof over my head. But there was no help in that household. Dallas was too fucking drunk all the time. And because he didn't work for 7 months, he's watching Game of Thrones. And hospital fucking things about people getting torn open and shot up, Grey's Anatomy shit, you know? Like, that's such fucked up things for somebody who's going through a traumatic fucking experience to have to go through all of that. It was a very scary experience. But I was in a subservient position. That's the house that I was trying to buy before Natalie was killed. You know why I didn't buy it? Because all the money that I was going to use to buy it, my back payment from my disability, yeah, that was all wasted jumping through hoops to make predators in Colorado happy after Natalie disappeared. So by the time I made the Holloway 1 video, Dual County Sheriff's Department and Meg Misgatis were both well entrenched and playing stupid and doing nothing. Each of them going back and forth telling me it's someone else's job, it's someone else's job. Dual County Sheriff's Department kept sending me to her to do this stuff, and she outright refused. And I told them that. I said, hey, she says that's not her job. And they swear it is her job. For 6 months they did this. And then the situation with Holloway and this is in the Holloway video happened. Obviously they're not communicating, or they're intentionally miscommunicating. And I'm being sent officers who have committed crimes against me because why? Because Nebraska State Patrol isn't going to do the job. Because Laura Nelson never came forward. Laura Nelson never came forward about any of that situation. I had to record it. And a lot of it is recorded on my clandestine recording device. It was bought by a guy named who? Does anybody pay attention? He's a guy from Scotland. A guy named Daniel Apathy. In Great Britain, they pretty well control people who are autistic. You're property of someone else. But when you have actual issues, they ignore it. Deputy Sean Holloway. On that video, if you follow the timeline, you realize that I went to all the people I needed to for help. That they had obviously gone out of their way not to do anything useful, not to investigate a single crime. The fact that I have Sandy Fromm talking about that crime recorded on my YouTube channel is pretty significant. Chris Stegeman didn't know much. He showed up and he gave me a ride back into chapel. I thought I finally had a safe place too. Turns out that Sandy Fromm was stalking a guy I know named Toby Smith. Wanted me to drive by his house all the time. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. But why was I being chauffeur for her? She was drunk on fucking tequila all the time. And of course, Wendell McPhee can testify to this. She's mean. And she gets off on it. She likes it. But she's also a witness, and she's also recorded on my channel. She's also an actual stalker. I'm just an asshole. But I'm an asshole who admits he's an asshole. Human lives are worth it. I'm tired of my friends ending up corpses, and I can't even go see them because of slander. Because of abuse by law enforcement, and also neglect by my friends and family. And financial abuse by my friends and family. Almost that whole time that Dallas Richmond was without a job, his family was supporting him. Also, I was paying for the internet to make sure that it wouldn't shut off. And I was paying for a lot of other things. And he said I was paying him too much. But then when there was an issue with his brother Zach, well, he wanted to come at me like I was some sort of a horrible monster for telling the truth. So you know what I did? I dug through the audio recording devices, and I made sure that I downloaded one of them, even though it takes a lot of fucking time. I made sure that I downloaded one of them with Dallas Richmond, and one of them with Zach Richmond to show the truth. Zach Richmond talks about a whole bunch of stuff that's completely fucking delusional. Makes no goddamn sense. When he needed a personal day, I was fine with that. He wanted to throw a tantrum because I said, you know, the thing is, if I take it personal day, people aren't understanding of it, and they throw tantrums. And the very next thing he did was throw a ginormous fucking tantrum. Well, I guess the recording we made yesterday is now going up on YouTube. By the way, Zach Richmond is recorded and on my YouTube. Also, his sister, Nicole Rust, sorry, not Nicole Rust, Nicole Nudson. Wasn't trying to be a dick, and I do apologize, Nicole. Nicole Nudson was explaining to me that it's got to do with his meth habit. So basically, I got a dude who's addicted to meth, and Dallas Richmond, his brother, ganging up on me, and they've got all of my stuff there, and then, because they're throwing a tantrum, they're going to sell it all the next day. Gotta tell you, Nicole Nudson, she could still come forward about the fact that I did, in fact and indeed, let her know about Clinton Snell and about Chris Kurth. Did I reach out for help? Absolutely I did. And her words were entirely dismissive. I reached out to my friends and they showed they weren't friends. When I broke the glass up at that low-income apartment, it's because of abuse that I was enduring. Because of abuse by Christopher Kurth. Because of abuse by many other people in town, including Robert Franklin Mornick. Repeated threats against my life, and the cops did not investigate any of it. They made zero attempt at any point to even document it. I explained to Cody Selhorst for about 3.5 hours what was going on. What did he do? Well, he didn't record it. And all he wrote was 2 very short, shitty fucking sentences. That was his entire report. I told him about Chris Kerr. I told him about the people that were assaulting me and threatening my life. About how there were people in Chapel doing it, not just in Colorado. And he tried to pacify me at the end of it by buying me a sandwich, and later on literally throwing the sandwich in my face as, oh, well, I got you a sandwich. Fuck you, dude. I was there when you got me a sandwich. I was pissed off that you did nothing about the abuse that I came to you about. But that's just another occasion where I had to go in alone because my friends and my family didn't give a shit. Over and over again, having to go to Dual County Sheriff's Department about crimes that are committed against me, while they talk over me like I'm a fucking retard. They already knew what they had done is wrong. They already knew that they'd committed felonies to protect bad officers. Scott DaCosta needs to be removed from power. Deputy Hammond belongs in prison with DaCosta. So does Sean Holloway. Also, due to the public safety risks that were created by this incident and by Laura Nelson not doing her job as a Nebraskan and a mandated reporter, Laura Nelson should be in prison too. It's not my fault that she was intimidated by the police. The fact that she was so afraid of Sean Holloway really speaks volumes about law enforcement in Chapel, Nebraska. But Laura's excuse is what? She's afraid for her family? That's right. She has to be afraid for her family from people like Clinton Snell, Christopher Kurth, Scott DaCosta, Sean Holloway, and anybody who supports them, any of their friends. It's disgusting. For me to go back through and dig through all of that, while police have spent all of this time going out of their way not to look at evidence. I'm forced to do it over the internet, but then I'm also told by various witnesses, people who are afraid, hey, don't go to that one. The situation in that video, by the time I'm having a conversation with Deputy Sean Holloway in that Holloway 1 video, yeah, I've already been warned about him. Laura Nelson is already deathly afraid of Scott DaCosta and Sean Holloway. And of course, going to the FBI was the right choice, but she didn't follow through. And I couldn't just wait on her to get off of her ass. She had done nothing to come forward about any of the events that she was aware of before or after Natalie was killed. She made zero attempt to come forward about those things that her and her husband actually did. Sean Holloway knew what he was doing was wrong. Now, there's witnesses that I told about the situation where I broke those windows. You goddamn right I did. I went down and I told Nancy Bruns and, let's see, Little Hawk and Big Hawk, and Little Hawk is big. All right, I'm sorry about that. My first day in Nebraska, my older brother gave me a piece of advice. He said, there's a girl named Cammie Hawkins. You're probably going to have a crush on her. But I'm going to warn you, she's got 2 brothers, Little Hawk and Big Hawk, and Little Hawk is big. Enough said. Richard Hawkins, that's his name. So Nancy Bruns and Richard Hawkins were 2 of the people that I spoke with. They were there when Deputy Hammond wanted to come grill me. And as always, I explained that I was trying to turn in crimes that were being committed against me. I explained about Robert Franklin Warnick for the umpteenth time, and Christopher Kerr for the umpteenth time. But he would not listen. He did not care, as always. So Nancy Bruns took me out to the farm, where I got to hang out with her and Bob Bruns. I got their numbers too. Then the situation in that video happened, and then, of course, I had to go down and fulfill my duties as a friend for Amy Spencer and Joshua Rayborn, in specific Joshua Rayborn. His instructions, and mind you, well, we'll get to that part. His instructions for me was that he may have to leave at any time, and if he's not there, to watch over the place. There's a lady named Barb, and I probably got, 50 hours worth of recordings over at her place. Now, during that weekend, when I was forced into homelessness yet again, and of course, Sean Holloway in that video is trying to give me bad legal advice and telling me to do something that would have gotten me arrested. His error. It's a good thing I caught it, because I am not completely fucking inept. I'm not invested in trying to protect predators, because I don't work for Dual County Sheriff Scott DaCosta like Sean Holloway and Leslie Snell do. These people worked together to prevent me from turning them in, and Nebraska State Patrol did everything to help. Thank goodness I recorded that shit and put as much as I could on the internet. But with them working together to have me incarcerated with zero evidence of actual crimes, I was in prison, people. I was repeatedly assaulted across the state of Nebraska, multiple jurisdictions. They sent me on a tour of the state to punish me for trying to tell on Scott DaCosta and his deputies still. Plus the fact that I was being forced to go to deputies who had repeatedly assisted my predators in getting away and had literally done nothing to investigate any crime against me. And these are the guys that I'm told to go to continually about crimes that are committed against me. They're not going to do their jobs. So Chris Kurth needs to come forward. But he's not a good person. It's not that I didn't try to get help. It's that people were full of fucking excuses, as always. So while I was over there talking with Barb, and of course, watching over Joshua Rayborn's house, as asked, following instructions, making sure that Barb was informed of what was going on as well, because she was in contact with him. But no, he got home, him and Amy, he got out of the house. I was so glad to see him. I was sick and tired of fucking sitting in that house and going back and forth between there and Barb's and making sure nobody fucks with it. And what's he do? He's all fucking hopped up on drugs, gets out of the fucking vehicle and fucking comes over and assaults me. Then, right after that, as I'm walking down the street, he wants to call me up and apologize, which I'm glad he did. But he wasn't apologizing. He was wanting to argue. He's like, you understand why I did that, right? You understand why I did that? No, dude, I don't. I did what you asked. This is what you told me to do in this situation. And I did keep in contact with Barb as well, as you asked me to, because your phone doesn't always work. I did what you fucking asked, dude. And yeah, I recorded it. And yes, he admitted that I had done as he asked. that he had assaulted me for doing as he asked. Because Dual County Sheriff's Department wouldn't do their jobs. On the bright side, because they didn't do their jobs, and because Joshua Rayborn didn't want to get in a whole bunch of trouble, he did what a lot of used car salesmen do. He put on his best game face, and he actually was extremely nice to me. And he talked nice in front of the officers, too, on multiple occasions. But if the deputies had done their jobs instead of blowing me off, I wouldn't have been able to record the evidence from Joshua Rayborn and from Amy Spencer about the situation there in Wyoming with those girls and everything that happened. I would say those poor girls, but they got a good foster home. A foster home that was so good that they wrote a letter to the judge saying they didn't want to go back and live with their mom. Rihanna said that Amy had a chance to go get both of her daughters and that Amy didn't take it. And yeah, that's recorded. You goddamn right it's recorded. I don't know how many times I went to the Dual County Sheriff's Department about Chris Kurth, for them to do nothing but help and assist Chris Kurth and Carl Snell and Clinton Snell. To this day, Nicole Knudsen could come forward. Instead, here I am having a panic attack at God knows what time of the morning. Afraid to go to sleep, afraid of another knock on the window by either a tweaker or a cop. I need a place where I can sit down in peace and quiet and not have to record all the goddamn time for my safety. A lot of y'all want to be horrible, horrible creatures because your stuff is up in public. Well, I didn't choose for it to be up in public. I chose to try to turn it in the legal route. Cops chose to play stupid, and so did you. You chose to not go the legal route. That's a very fucked up thing to do. Sean Holloway, just like every other deputy who worked for Scott DaCosta, was going to go out of his way to protect his boss. They kept sending me to Nebraska State Patrol, and Nebraska State Patrol kept saying it's not their job. Not their job, not their job. But it is their job. Who investigated Polly Olson? Nebraska State Patrol, who blew me off and told me it's not their job. Who investigated Polly Olson? Nebraska State Patrol. Who investigated Michelle Quinn? Nebraska State Patrol. Who is Michelle Quinn? Well, she's one of the sheriffs that Scott DaCosta talked to have me harmed. One of the sheriffs that they used. Her and her whole department, Scott DaCosta used to have me harmed, to have me deprived of my rights. And again, these situations wouldn't have happened if I'd have had a friend there and present who actually gave a shit through any of this. Sean Holloway is a bad man. I threatened to take these people to court and put them in prison. And they knew it. They also knew that it wasn't an idle threat, that is my goal and my intent. And they had to do everything in their power to sell another narrative. And of course, that requires them to ignore any and all crimes against me and pretend I'm schizophrenic. What a bunch of pathetic fucking goddamn losers.